Okay, before we dive into talking about errors, I want to let you guys know that I'm actually going to categorically break down some stuff. I did want to list these out in sort of some neat subsets for you guys. The biggest reasoning for this and why I'm doing this is most of econometrics, we're going to live in this idea of the disturbance term. But the large issue with econometrics is oftentimes they carelessly use the word error and don't really pin down what they mean by that. So recall from last time, and this will extrapolate pretty much in general to everything that we're dealing with now, that we were talking about a pool of individual observations that are averaged. So the individuals would share the same input. That is, in this case, it was education that we were talking about, where we had a pool of individuals that all shared 12 years of education. We would take all of their incomes, which differed, and we would average those incomes to give us an average Y value. And then from there, we would create a regression line. So that was the big quantum leap that was different from what we were used to before. So I categorized all of these as A, though, for peer averaging. Meaning that when we have a model approximation error, what we're saying here is that we have the observed average now of the pool. So it's an observational fact. So it's an actual average that we took of all of our observations. And then we're subtracting it by the line, what the line that we created out of those averages would predict. So that's different than, it's similar, but it's different than Intro to Statistics in that if we come down here in Intro to Statistics, it used to be that we would say some individual observation minus what the line would predict, and the line was created out of those individual observations, not out of an average of those observations. So econometrics is adding this averaging step. That's the big jump that we make in econometrics, and that really isn't stated usually or properly in most courses or textbooks. So at least if you're here watching this video, I'm assuming that that's exactly the case. It was not stated properly to you. So notice then that this is very similar conceptually. The only difference is to model approximation error is we're saying, okay, given that the individual, so given that we take an individual, they still lie in some pool that we expect the average to be, minus what the line of that, minus the line of those averages and what that would predict. So these really aren't that dissimilar. This is just saying, okay, now we're just focused on an individual. That's why I had this term in purple, because it's closely related to the model approximation error. Then if we're talking about intercept and slope errors, these would be more of that peer average sense. So it's saying, suppose we had come up with a line, but we had created a wrong intercept or a wrong slope. Here's what would tell us that we did that, and then here's how to fix it. Finally, the disturbance term is where most of econometrics is going to live. So this will be where we end the video series. I will break these into 3 parts. So these two will share a video, these two will share a video, and then we'll talk about the disturbance term, UI equals yi minus the expectation of y given xi. What this is telling us is now, this is the one time where we would say focus on an individual themselves, not just, excuse me, what the average of their pool would predict. So this is saying, no, the individual's true wage, this is what their true wage is, and then we are subtracting by what we would the average of wages for that pool. And that gives us the disturbance term, again, where most econometrics is going to live. So if you found this somewhat confusing, definitely, even though this is not part of your normal coursework, you need to watch my videos on breaking these down. If you feel comfortable and go, oh yeah, no, this had totally made sense to me right out the gate, and I understand that what the disturbance term is and how that differs from these other things that we call error and exactly what I've told you in the past 5 minutes here, then by all means you can skip to this video. But If that's not the case, again, watch through all of them. So thank you, and I will see you guys next time.